Hello and welcome to the Meaning Project podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Daniel A. Franz, and as always, it is my pleasure to bring a little bit of mental health and meaning to your day one last time. That's right, one last time for the summer of 2024. More than likely, I'm almost sure, I'm nearly positive I'll be back after the summer of 24, but you never can tell, right? As we talk about here, life is transitory. And that's why we got to do amazing things with today. And I need a break because I've got some really amazing things coming up. And so as I've promised for the past few podcasts, I'll tell you a little bit about them and leave you with the cliffhanger because I'd love for you to come back when I come back after all these fun things and share a little bit about them after or maybe towards the end of this summer. First of all, reason for a break. Why take a break from the Meaning Project podcast and all you wonderful listeners out there? I need a break. It's summer. It's summertime, and I don't know about you. I hope your summer is like mine, that back in March of this year, I looked at the calendar and I said, well, the summer is already planned with many meaningful and enjoyable activities, but busy, real busy. Personally, I have one of those lifetime monumental birthdays coming up. Something about a 5 and a 0. And so I need to take some time and figure out what that means in my life, what that looks like. You know, those monumental birthdays, those decades, especially this one, are an opportunity to step back, to pause and reflect. And I'm certainly looking forward to doing that. I'm looking forward to celebrating with friends and family and reminiscing with those who've helped me get to this point in life, that have been there and been good friends and family and supported me, and I've supported them along the way. So I'm going to take some time for that, some time for reflection. But then also, I find travel and experience to be one of the most meaningful things, one of the most meaningful ventures we can engage in. And after that monumental birthday, shortly thereafter, I will be setting out on what I'd like to think of as a noetic journey, a noetic voyage, something so spiritual and meaningful, something I've been looking forward to now for years, something we've been planning, a group of good friends and I, and the famed, podcast famous Running Man will be attending as well. Unfortunately, my good friend Dr. Baruch Halevi will not be there, but maybe in future journeys. So a meaningful, planned out, a journey we've literally been anticipating for several years now will be happening. And in past years, I've taken the time to podcast from the road or podcast ahead of time, and I just won't be able to this year. But I look forward to sharing it with you after the experience when we get back. You know, I've been able to do that on past experiences where chaperoning high school students and things like that. So I look forward to sharing the meaning, the experience behind this upcoming journey and what it might look like for you to do something like that. So on a personal note, again, birthday, travel, time to step back from the podcast a little bit. But the things that I'm doing that hopefully directly impact you are, well, in my opinion, far more exciting. Once again, I apologize. Without a partner to podcast, taking a sip of coffee leads to a moment of silence for you. So things coming up that you can look forward to from the Meaning Project podcast and DanielAFranz.com. First, I've been working on it for a long time. It is time to finally finish up the book I've been working on, my reflections on man's search for meaning. Things you've probably heard here too many, hopefully so many times you've memorized them and read the book. But I've been taking the time to pull my notes out of Man's Search for Meaning, the notes I've highlighted and recorded over the past 10 years, and take some time to reflect on those and write them down. So hopefully in the next few months, whether it'll just be a PDF to sign up for on my website, or maybe we go as far as self-publishing, putting it out there for something to pick up on Amazon. You will be able to find my reflections. I hope, if I can sit down and take the time to do that. Pardon me, no cough button here. And it's allergy season, so I apologize for that. Hopefully it didn't get into your ears too much. Things from me. Dr. Dan's reflections on man's search for meaning. Something I am very excited about. If you're a professional contact of mine on LinkedIn, you may already know this. If not, you can find out more about it. But recently, in the past it feels like an eternity now, but I would say few months, few weeks, I was appointed, hired, awarded. I don't know how you look at it. I was honored to be chosen, quite actually. We talk about Seth Godin talking about the economy, and there are some economies, some jobs where you have to go out there and make it on your own. A therapist in private practice, a psychologist, a logotherapist, helping others in his own business, building a podcast, right? Nobody chose me to do that. I went out there and decided to do it. But there are those other roles where there's a gatekeeper and somebody chooses you. And as I said, I've recently been chosen to be the chief clinical officer of Cardeon. And Cardeon is a innovative, pardon me, again, using a new system, and I don't know where the cough button is. And these allergies are killer. I apologize. Cardeon. What a great company. It's going to be a great company because right now it's an idea. My CEO, Chief Executive Officer, Cody Wingert, had several years ago. Cody's been working on programming and development of an app. So he's a programming, developing kind of person and personality. Wonderful to work with. But this app takes the information of a therapist and cardifies it, puts it on cards, codifies it in a way that it is accessible through an app. So it was interesting how I came about to, well, I'll tell you a little bit more about Cardeon before how. We have an app out there already, Cardeon, in some very basic bare bones format. And today we are working on the assessment process, how to ask the minimal amount of questions to get the maximum amount of data about you so that we can provide for you via an app on your phone a series of cards with challenges, questions, information, further self-assessments so that you can continue to grow your mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, occupational, relational wellness, your health. The goal here is to first offer this to individual users who would benefit from these kinds of ideas. People that would listen to a podcast about logotherapy and meaning would probably benefit from the use of Cardeon, as well as we know there's a mental health crisis out there, and we want to help. You've known this for a long time. If you've been a listener to the podcast, you know I want to be out there helping. And when I saw this opportunity, I immediately clicked the button to apply for it just to see what was out there out of curiosity, out of maybe searching for meaning. And it was an interesting process. So version 1.8 will be released here probably end of summer into the fall. I am feverishly working on my side of development and taking my knowledge and information and that of the team I lead and putting this down into an app. Something, if you know my wife, she said often, you should design an app. My goodness, I've been designing an app for just a couple months. I had no idea how involved it can be. It's been a lot of fun. It's been very meaningful work, and I'm certainly enjoying it, and I can't wait. You can look at it now in its early editions. It's out there in your app stores. Version 1.8, more of an increase in the bare bones, will be out later this year with 2.0, kind of the bells and whistles version, being released by the end of the year. Very excited to be a part of Cardeon and all that we're, not just to be a part, but to be the leader of the clinical team. It is an honor to lead the people I get to work with and an honor to have been chosen. So I'll tell you a little bit about that. It was a really noetic, spiritual kind of experience. I was just surfing LinkedIn, as I'm prone to do because Facebook and other social medias can be so bad, and seeing what's going on with some of the friends of the podcast, people you may have listened to in the past, like Matthew Nostalgia and some other people out there. And I came across a job offering for Cardeon, and it was a bare bones kind of, write up. Here's what you would be doing, leading this team to cardify clinical information. I thought, all right, that sounds pretty cool. So in a leap of meaning, I hit the button and applied. And within a day, I got a response back because Cody said, apparently when you advertise on LinkedIn, they cap you at 50 applications before you have to pay. So he had 50 applications. We chatted, first chatted for a half hour. Then I was invited back to chat for an hour. And that hour was more after signing a non-disclosure agreement and being sworn to secrecy so that I could learn about what he had been working on for 6 or 7 years, what he'd been working on. And folks, I was wowed. This man has been putting his heart and soul into this application, and for good reason. And I'm not going to tell you the reason, but most of us seek these endeavors because we have some reason to do it. And Cody certainly does. And maybe someday I'll have him on the podcast to share about that. I won't tell you his story, but it is a beautiful one. So second interview, he tells me about it. Third interview, kind of a get to know you, right? Like, hey, we've known each other for 90 minutes and it's been basically talking business. So we talked theory and background and stuff like that. And then I think I had a fourth one of those where he wanted just he had some questions and a little bit more. And in the end, he called me. Maybe the fourth one was where he called me up and he said, you know what, Dan, I think you're the guy. And we talked about that. And again, I kind of gushed a little bit. I'm excited about this idea. Thank you. And but in the end, I needed to know why. Why am I the guy? Not just out of some self-serving, selfish, self-centeredness, but if I'm going to lead a team, what is it that I brought to those interviews that he thought would benefit a team of clinicians? And it really came down to, and this is kind of funny. Yeah, I think you may have known I only started doing Facebook shorts from the podcast this year, right? Fed it into some AI generated shorts. I threw it out there and, well, Cody found some of them. He found some of the episodes of the podcast, and he said, there's just something about that, about the meaning I bring to the podcast, about what I talk about, specifically when it comes to resilience and how we have an obligation to take responsible action that can lead us to discovering meaning. And rather than as you know my perspective, if you've been here for a while, what can you do to live a more meaningful life? Something there appealed to what Cardeon is all about. And, now I'm the chief clinical officer leading a group of therapists and clinicians and other amazing people to bring this idea to life in a way, not only benefiting the individual user, but we want to be out there helping therapists too. I know, you've heard me say how hard therapists are working right now. But what if we had an app that could take some of their information, some of the information that we talk about on the Meaning Project, and provide it to their clients in between sessions? What a powerful opportunity. So not only the casual individual user, but we want to be out there helping therapists, helping case managers and skills trainers improve their work to do a better job. Not that they're not doing a good enough job, but if we can maximize that, if we can times that by 10 or 20 or 100, how much better might the world be? So keep looking. Go load up the Cardeon app. Take a look at what we have now and be ready, because we're going to be out there and we're going to change a lot of lives. And more so, than maybe the competition apps out there who have notoriously sold your data and provided them to, I don't want to talk bad about the other apps out there, but one of the things that really appealed to me about Cody and Cardeon is the integrity. The fact that he's been bootstrapping this for 6 or 7 years, hasn't taken a dime of public money, and refuses to squander any investors' money that we have coming up. We're here to help people. And that's what I really appreciate about the opportunity to work for a company like Cardeon. So have a look. You'll see, I won't be talking about it on the podcast very much because you're going to see how it grows this year and in years to come. So that's Cardeon. And again, one of the reasons I need a break from the podcast is to focus on being their chief clinical officer while also celebrating a monumental birthday and taking an amazing trip I'll tell you more about. And of course, the thing that, along with Cardeon, two divergent paths in a way, I have finally put my training dollars where my mouth is and have signed up for an extensive and expensive training in PAT, psychedelic-assisted therapy. I don't know where that's going to go. As a substance abuse therapist for darn near 25 years now, let's say 20. I don't want to be that old right now yet. Over 20 years, not quite 25 years, I've learned so much about what we don't know about helping people. Not just people with substance abuse issues, but people in general. People with depression and anxiety. Those of us experiencing existential crises of turning 50 years old or having a midlife crisis. We continue to throw new and different and some well-designed, some poorly designed practices and evidence-based practices to see what will help. But we're also learning that medication we designed 50 years ago, the serotonin subtle reuptake inhibitors, the SSRIs, the SNRIs, the benzodiazepines, all of those things we thought would be helpful are turning out not to be. Not as helpful as we may need them to be. Meanwhile, indigenous medicines, natural medicines, like we know everybody's been hearing about ayahuasca. Thanks, Aaron Rodgers. Ayahuasca, peyote, mescaline, cacao, the derivative of cocoa, all these different indigenous substances, psilocybin, all these different things have been around. I've said it before, I'll say it again, thousands of years. Indigenous cultures have been using these for thousands of years. Their shamans, their medicine people, their medicine women, medicine men have been helping their tribes and their groups for thousands of years. And we're only now just beginning to do research into it. And I will be part of the 7th cohort, just the 7th group of students to go through this training and to learn about specifically 3 different substances.